Hi, grade 5. Today we will learn about equivalent fractions. We are to make equivalent fractions by multiplying and dividing by a fraction equivalent to 1. So first, let us learn how do we write one whole as a fraction. If you remember yesterday, we talked about improper fractions. And we've seen this picture here below. We have here a whole circle, but we could write it as a fraction as 2 over 2, meaning the whole circle has been divided into two equal parts, but you took two of them, so you still have the whole thing. Here we have the green circle divided into four equal parts, but all those parts are colored, meaning the numerator is 4. So we have 4 over 4, which means we still have the whole circle. So a way to show one whole is by writing the improper fraction 2 over 2, 4 over 4, or one whole can be written as any number over the same number. As long as they're the same, it represents one whole. The numerator and the denominator, if they are the same, this is a representation of one whole. So one whole can be 55 over 55 or a million over a million or whatever number you would like to choose to say. Okay, as long as the numerator and the denominator are the same, that number, that fraction is equal to one whole. Now, that's important to know because when we find equivalent fractions, we could multiply by another fraction equivalent to 1. And if we multiply by 1, we'll get the same number. If you remember the properties of multiplication, 12 times 1 is the same number, 12. 55 times 1 is still 55. So the same thing in fractions. We have here 1/2, but what if I multiply 2 over 2 to 1/2? Remember 2 over 2 is just 1? So if I multiply 1 to 1/2, I would get 1/2 also. But in fractions, when we multiply the numerators and write a new numerator. We multiply the denominators and write a new denominator. But since I just multiplied by 1, I have here a fraction that looks different from 1/2, but they're actually the same. It's like looking at 1/2 but with a different coat. Maybe with teacher with a mask on. It's still me, but I have a mask on. So this is still 1/2, but it's just shown with different numbers. Right? What's half of 4? 2. So this shows 1/2. Again, 1/2 here. What if I multiply it by the fraction 4 over 4? 1 times 4, I'll get 4. 2 times 4 is 8. I now have another name for 1/2. Another fraction for 1/2 is 4/8. If I multiply 1/2 by 3 over 3, which is just another form of 1, I'll get 3/6. And this is again another form of 1/2. Kalahati rin ang 3/6. Ganun rin, pag minultiply ko ang 1/2 by 5 over 5, makukuha ko ay 5/10 at ang 5/10 ay kalahati rin. This is also 1/2. So 1/2 is just the same as 2/4 and 3/6 and 4/8 and 5/10. They all represent a half of a whole. So in your book, please turn it to page 91 and let us do together towards better understanding part B. We have here for number 1, 1/4. But what if 1/4 is multiplied by 7 over 7? So multiply the numerators first. 1 times 7 is 7. Then multiply the denominators. 4 times 7? Yes, it is 28. So here is another form of 1/4. And if you count by 7, you'll see that 7 is a fourth of 28. How is that? 7, 14, 21, 28. If this is 28, 7, it's one of the four parts. So it's 1/4. Another example, we have here 3/8. If I multiply it by 5, I'll get an equivalent fraction equal to 3/8, but in different form. So let's find that fraction. 3 times 5 is 15. 8 times 5 is, yes, 40. So 15 over 40 is an equivalent fraction to 3/8. How about 8 over 11? If we multiply it by 2 over 2, we'll get a different form of 8 over 11, an equivalent fraction. 8 times 2 is 16. How about 11 times 2? Yes, it is 22. So an equivalent fraction to 8 over 11 is 16 over 22. How about here? We have 10 times 3, we'll get 30. 15 times 3, 45. So an equivalent fraction to 10 over 15 is 30 over 45. You still have items 5 and 6 to do. Please do that by yourself to practice multiplying by a form of 1 to get an equivalent fraction. But we don't just multiply, we could also divide by a form of 1. Here we have the forms of 1, 2 over 2, 15 over 15, where else? Here, 5 over 5. So if we divide a number by 1, we will get the same number. 5 divided by 1 is 5. Here, if we would divide a fraction by 1, we'll get the same fraction, but it just looks different. Okay, so 6/10 divided by 2 over 2 will get 3/5 because 6 divided by 2 is 3. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So 6/10 is equal to 3/5. 6/10 is an equivalent fraction to 3/5. How about here? 150 over 300, if we divide the numerator and the denominator by 15, we'll get 10 over 20, which means 150 over 300 is an equivalent fraction to 10 over 20. The same thing for the last example. 10 over 20, when you divide those two numbers by 5, you'll get 2/4, which means 10 over 20 is just the same as 2/4. We can do that and practice some more on part C of page 91. So number 1, we have here 10 over 16. If we divide 10 over 16 by 2 over 2, we'll get 10 divided by 2, numerators first, 5, denominator, 16 divided by 2, 5/8. How about for an item 2, we will divide by 4 over 4. 48 divided by 4 is 12. 60 divided by 4 is 15. Here, number 3, 18 divided by 9. Should know this. Yes, it's 2. 72 divided by 9 is 8. So 18 over 72 is equal to 2/8. They are equivalent fractions. And lastly, as an example, we have here 25 divided by 5, which is 5. 75 divided by 5 is 15. So this fraction is equal to 5 over 15. Please do the same for items 5 and 6. And after that, you are to do the follow-up practice also of the part A only, okay? So you only have 8 items and you are to write your answers in your LGs, okay? We are asked to find the missing numerator or denominator. How will we find them? They're lost. Well, we could either multiply or divide. Notice here, how did 3 become 33? Did we multiply? Do we multiply or do we divide? Well, it became bigger, so we have to multiply it by what number? Yes, 3 times 11 is 33. So if I multiply the denominator by 11, I have to multiply the numerator by the same number so that 11 over 11 is a form of 1. We're only multiplying by 1. But that 1 is shown by 11 over 11. So now we'll know the numerator. What is 2 times 11? Yes, it is 22. First, the second item, notice the numerators. We already have an answer. How did 12 become 4? Did we multiply or divide? Yes, we probably divided, or the book did, the author, because the number became smaller. By what number? 12 divided by? Divided by 3. So if we divide by 3 in the numerator, we should also divide by 3 in the denominator. So let's count by 3's. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. So our new numerator is 6. Do the same thing for items 3 to 8. So here, just think of it the other way around because this is the blank. How did 30 become 10? We divided by 3. 30 divided by 3 is 10. So the numerator we also have to divide by 3. And please write your answer on the blanks. Do the same thing for the rest of the items. If you have questions, ask me in the Google Classroom. Goodbye.